Hi, Charles County. I'm Doria Fleisher, and I am thrilled to introduce this new series, Ready, Set, Prepare, Emergency Preparedness in Charles County with you. This series is going to have a lot of episodes with information on all things related to emergency preparedness here in Charles County. You'll learn about some of the great programs and work that our staff does, and also what you can do to help us be a prepared community. Joining us here as a co-host is Wade Haubert. Wade is our emergency manager with Department of Emergency Services. Thanks for being here, Wade.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So, Wade, I really appreciate this because this was kind of your idea, right? You're relatively new to Charles County government.
Yes, I started at the end of September.
And you had emergency preparedness is like your jam, yes? This is what matters to you?
It is now for about the last 10 years. I'm a retired police officer, and then my second career became emergency management.
Well, we're thrilled to have you here. So I want to hear a little bit about why this matters to you to get this information out here. And then I'm also going to ask about what your role in county government is. But start with, why is this a passion project for you? Why was it important for you to share this information with our community?
Well, it's a passion project for me in the sense that, any community that you live in, you want the best for it. And I live in Charles County. I'm proud to settle my family here. I want to raise my kids here. And, strong communities are resilient communities. And I love that I can be at the forefront of an organization where we can help empower individuals to be prepared for any type of emergency or disaster. It's one of the key tenets of government responsibility. And, as a retired police officer, I got to respond to a lot of things. When I made the transition to emergency management, that put things in a different perspective. We could be a little bit more proactive, and you had a greater opportunity to work with individuals to empower them to help themselves out at times when they could be the most vulnerable.
Well, we are thrilled that you are here professionally, and I'm really glad you're here personally as well, that your family has decided to make Charles County home. I love it when our employees have that investment into the community where you're both a professional here and a member of the community. Wade, tell us a little bit about the role of emergency management as part of our Department of Emergency Services. So emergency services is a big department for us, yeah?
Yes. Emergency services is a very large department, and there are 4 divisions in it. Animal control, in no particular order. Animal control.
I like how you have to say that so nobody accuses you of having a favorite later. Okay, carry on.
Yes, animal control services, the EMS, communications, and emergency management. And I am the smallest department of one.
So to put it into perspective, we've got our animal care center and our humane law enforcement. We've got EMS, which is the ambulances, mobile integrated health, and then communications, which is when you call 911, the people who pick up, and then you.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about the small but mighty division.
So emergency management has been a division in emergency services for quite some time. My role as the emergency manager, each of those other divisions have a chief, and my role is equivalent to them. I just don't go by the title of chief.
Okay.
And then we all head up these specific areas of our expertise. Emergency management is focused on, I've mentioned resiliency, but just preparing a community for any type of disaster. So there's statutory requirements as far as things governments have to do. There are plans that need to be written. People, I'm sure, are familiar with the hazard mitigation plan. You may have heard of the emergency operations plan. Shelter plans, flooding, evacuation plans, those types of things all fall under the umbrella of emergency management. Specifically, when I was hired, I was tasked to kind of reinvigorate the program. So 3 things I'm going to be focusing on in my first year here are working with our EMS providers and the rest of emergency services on development of our rescue task force.
Okay.
That's just basically fancy words for responding to a mass casualty incident.
And when we say mass casualty, that's a word that gets used a lot in the emergency responder field. But how do you explain that to the general public?
That could be anything from multiple heat injuries at a baseball game or a concert, outdoor concert, to an active shooter situation or a vehicle ramming. So it doesn't necessarily have to be an act of violence or terrorism.
So just a lot of humans involved in a challenging event.
Something that would overwhelm the normal day-to-day system.
Okay, gotcha. Right. Thank you for clarifying.
Then there's training. Emergency management, traditionally in most agencies, is responsible for doing a lot of training. Not both outreach with the community, training them on basic things, and providing training to the public safety community. And then the other responsibility that I was tasked to focus on in my first year was an incident management component, where when we have an actual incident, ensuring that we have the staff that can enter our emergency operations center and be prepared to manage that incident.
Excellent.
And you might say, what do you mean by manage an incident? And emergency managers, I view the role as kind of being a conductor to an orchestra. It's not my job as the emergency manager to tell the fire chief how to respond to a fire, to tell the sheriff how to respond to an active shooter situation. Not my job to talk about how patient care needs to be handled or how the streets need to be plowed. We have specific individuals and departments that have expertise in that. Where emergency management comes into play is when things get beyond the capabilities of those organizations, usually through resources, emergency managers can come in and assist by tapping a network, both at the local level, neighboring counties, or eventually up to the state, and getting the resources to assist. And it's not just government agencies, it's working with the whole community. Perfect example, we recently became partners with the Maryland Volunteer Organizations Active in Disaster, VOAD. And so that's another tool in our toolkit, so that if we had an incident that required, sheltering and feeding of individuals, maybe feeding first responders, it's a building collapse, right? We can tap that organization and say, hey, do you have any people with canteen services that can come out and help out?
So it's making sure that we're prepared as much as possible for the things that could happen. And when the things do happen, which we hope they don't, we have access to every single available resource working together to have this collaborative response. Is that an accurate way to say that?
Right. And the way I try and describe it to my kids, I figure if they can understand what Daddy does when he goes to work,
right.
Anybody who's got kids knows what the Paw Patrol is. And so I view emergency management as Ryder who gets the Paw Patrol to their mission. All those little characters have their own area of expertise. And so I figure if we can get kids to understand it and view it from that standpoint, we can get adults to understand what their role might be.
I love it. Wade, that's a great metaphor. And I just want you to know that if you'd shown up in a red vest, that would have been bonus points for you today. If you were dressed as Ryder, I would have immense more respect for you, just so you know.
I'm always partial to blue. No offense to my fire
It's the law
colleagues.
Enforcement background. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have used the word red about fire. Sorry. Wade, that's a great overview. And I love that, your number 2 thing was that education, outreach, and doing stuff like this. This series is part of that, just getting information out to the public about what they can know. Some of the topics that we have planned for future episodes, I'm really excited about. So I know in February, we're going to be talking about financial preparedness and knowing what to do with that. We've got some weather-related stuff. What are some of the topics that you're really excited to share over the course of this series?
I'm just excited to talk about different ways. I want to be able to empower the community to feel confident that if something occurred. We're all familiar with what's going on, wildfires or other different incidents.
Right.
And think about what you might do if you were faced with that situation, and it can be overwhelming if you just, oh my goodness, I wouldn't know how to respond. But there's little thought exercises you can do with your family just to sit down and have a discussion. If the parents are at the dinner table with the children and have a discussion with your kids to find out, hey, if something occurred where you were in school and would you know how to get home? Would you know where to meet me if something occurred? Just have those discussions.
I think that's a beautiful part of preparedness, is that these are the little steps we can all be taking. I love that you're working with our with our most amazing professionals in the space to make sure they're prepared, but that there's also so much work that the more than 170,000 people in Charles County can be doing so that our residents are as prepared as possible, which I assume also makes our professionals' lives that much easier, right? A prepared community helps prepare professionals.
Absolutely. Don't want to sound callous, but you want people to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yeah, totally.
With going back to the wildfires out in California, there's countless examples of, average persons, becoming heroes, just helping their neighbors out.
Right.
And those little efforts, can go a long way. And if you can handle it at your local level, then those are things where the emergencies that need the professionals, with the specific skill sets,
right,
they don't have to be tied up going to something else. If you know basic first aid, then you might be able to hold off making that call during a disaster to 911 so that you could triage, and then our EMS units, our paramedics, would be able to respond to people who have urgent, life-threatening things.
Awesome. Well, my job is community engagement on a good day. And so I love the way that you're involving all of our community, because our goal for Charles County government is two-way dialogue between residents and government always, that it's a mutually beneficial relationship. Our government does well by our people, and our people are there to support the government. And what you're describing at that emergency level means a lot. So I hope we don't ever need those resources and skills. I hope you're really bored in your career here at Charles County, but I love that you're giving us some tools if we need them. Awesome. Well, Wade, I'm very excited for the next year of recording some of these great episodes. We'll have some wonderful content. We're going to be doing these episodes both in video and in podcast form. So however you want to tune in, we would love to have you join us. You can look forward to a new one each month. And also, if you miss an episode, you can always go back and view it. I hope that you'll check out all of these episodes along with our other great content. And always, Charles County, thanks so much for staying safe. Take care and stay engaged.
Thanks for listening. If you like this podcast and want to hear more, search Charles County Government on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And be sure to like and subscribe. We're also available on YouTube. Search Charles County Commissioners. And stay connected for all county news, information, and programs by visiting www.charlescountymd.gov/stay connected.